Adaptation for Community Resilience is being hosted by BRAC, and my humble appreciation to the organizer for giving us this great opportunity to host a session in this second Gobeshona Global Conference. In my personal opinion, locally led adaptation is not a new concept. Rather, it is an emerging, growing approach or technique for achieving effectiveness of adaptation at every single country in the world. So there are large number of organizations who are working on these locally led adaptations, and they are trying to advance like BRAC, and BRAC has been following this locally led approach since long. And in Bangladesh, we have many organizations, as I was saying, and experts, thinkers who have been working practically in the field to take locally led approach forward for enhancing quality resilience on the ground. From those experts, we have today in this session chair as Dr. Liaquat Ali, Director Climate Change Program, BRAC and BRAC International, and he's also Director of Urban Development Program and also member of this Climate Bridge Fund Trustee Board. Let me right now introduce the program of this session. And we will proceed with the main session where we have 3 case studies, experiences from the local led adaptation, experiences from different, the coastal zone and the other areas, so that you can really understand how locally led experience are being held at the BRAC. So the first case experiences will be presented by Taposh Ranjan Chakraborty. He represents Climate Change Program of BRAC. And the second case will be presented by Anindita Ridita, who will represent Climate Bridge Fund Secretariat. And the third case will be presented by Muhammad Saif Iqbal, Program Manager, Urban Development Program. And at the end of the presentation, we have a panel of experts, and we have very renowned panel of experts. Let me just introduce them. Mirza Shaukat Ali, who is the Director, Climate Change and International Convention at the Department of Environment, Government of Bangladesh, and he is very, very well-known personality in climate negotiation. And often I used to call him as institutional memory in terms of climate negotiation, not only for Bangladesh, but for LDC countries, least developed countries, and even at the global level. So he is a institutional memory for Bangladesh in terms of climate negotiation in particular. And we also have Mr. Muhammad Shamsuddoha, who is Chief Executive Center for Participatory Research and Development. And he has another hat. He is the member of Climate Action Network International, board member. And thirdly, we have SM Mehdi Hassan, Senior Urban Resilience Specialist, KfW Development Bank, and he's also General Secretary, Bangladesh Institute of Planners. So with these 3, the panel of experts will hear their opinions at the end of the presentation. But let me just share 3 specific questions, so that we can get, some specific responses from this very learned personality and the discussion. My first question would be how these experiences, once these are presented, how these experiences are aligned with the national and global policy commitments. I know we have this expertise in this panel, and my second questions will be: what are the areas of potential research to advance locally led adaptation actions? We have been working on locally led adaptation actions in the country, and what are the potential areas that can actually help to advance this concept in future? My third question would be very specific: how best we can integrate locally led approach in urban planning and bring it in practice for greater resilience. And we know that these are all in different policy frameworks, and only few examples we can see in the field, but how we can bring it in practice, integrating locally led approach in the urban planning. So these 3 questions will be, in addition to your views, opinions based on the presentation, I would request all discussions to, present this, if you can respond specifically. And there will be 10 minutes, 10 to 12 minutes for question answer session. And finally, at the end of the technical session, I would request my chair to deliver his closing remarks and vote of thanks, at the end of the session. So at the beginning, I would request Mr. Tapas Ranjan Chakraborty, Senior Program Officer, Climate Change Program BRAC, to start the presentation. Mr. Tapas, floor is yours.
Thank you, Repanivay. I'll start.
Okay. And Taposda, you have only 6 minutes to finish your presentation.
Okay, I'll be very brief. This is locally led adaptation for community resilience, and the climate change program being implementing a number of adaptation approaches. Here I'll share 2. But not only sharing those 2, how those adaptation intervention is linked with the local community and how the local community can plan this locally led adaptation, I'll try to detail from our experience. So we know this, the climate change vulnerability of our country, and a number of there are impacts of climate change, heat wave, erratic rainfall, sea level rise, and those are happening. And hazards related to water and air has been increased. And that's affecting the water availability, food security and nutrition, human health and livelihood. And this is resulting towards the increasing poverty and creating a displacement. And for that, climate change program of BRAC started interventions, and we had identified 41 districts which is actually more vulnerable, and most of them are in our coast. Also the Chittagong Hill Tracts, Barin, then drought prone area, Howrah Basin, and as well as the urban areas. But how the climate change development BRAC is thinking with in mainstreaming it and the locally led adaptation. When we are doing the development planning and action, then we consider this climate change adaptation and mitigation intervention, which is required for that particular community. And this adaptation and mitigation approach cumulatively resulting towards the resilience building, and this the planning, action, and the climate action, they are ensuring the sustainability of that community. So towards the climate change resilience development, locally led adaptation is playing the role in climate change adaptation mitigation, I mean in the second 2 parts. And how the community is doing this, identifying their adaptive capacity themselves and the risks that they are facing, and the local the geolocation, how much is exposed to the climate change, and the sensitivity that the local communities identify where BRAC is facilitating. With that locally led thoughts, the climate change program now working for water security, agriculture and food security, and green growth. So one of our example of water solution in Mongla, what we are doing, this is the rainwater harvesting. And for that, when we found that the keeping rainwater for more time in the water tank or water system, the turbidity, it's adding new turbidity or some biological process. That's why due to the community demand, along with this community asking, our engineers have designed a filter, which is washable filter. And we are putting this washable filter when we are harvesting the water. And the process is the community with their identified baseline and surveys, we follow a tool that is climate change vulnerability assessment, where the community is the lead part. And then the local people and the local community plan the solution, which is actually supported with the government intervention, and we advocate with the government. Then we identify the intervention from this for each and every household. The interventions for households or design, engineering design for households may vary. And there are household level and some are in community level. And for that operation, we train the caretaker, we test the water quality, and the local community has formed climate action group for themselves. Now I'll share you the adaptation in agriculture that we are doing in the Pankoti of Kolachipa. See this, there is a design where we made one frame of platform. So the engineer's design that we did in here in climate change program, with community, this was altered, and gross alteration of 30%. 30% of the engineer's design and agriculture's design have been changed by the community. And that increased 20% of the cost. So what I need to consider according to the CCP's experience, the understanding of the cause of added vulnerability. I mean, we need to aware the community if we need to go approach that lowest level of planning. And knowing the alternatives, understanding the alternative and who's who. We found that the 80% of 82% of the community people know about the climate change in the coast, but not in the other part of country. And considering this locally led adaptation, for an example, that farmers needs to know what will grow and where is the seed availability. Simultaneously, the input suppliers, they need to know that what are the source and what community will do. And then consumers also consider this, and okay, those are the things that every tier of the stakeholder need to know and understand for this locally led adaptation. And the building this robust understanding of climate risks and climate uncertainty, which is the principle 5, for that the CCP is working a lot.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tapushda, for highlighting, 3 major points. One is the, mainstreaming climate change is the way to ensure climate resilient development. And you have been focusing more on water and food security. And you have made a very important point that the decision making from the lowest appropriate level is extremely important to ensure locally led adaptation. Now, I would request Anandita Ridita, Senior Manager, Operations Climate Bridge Fund Secretariat, to deliver your 6 minutes presentation. Anandita.
Thank you so much, Rabbani Bhai. Hello, everyone. I will be presenting how Climate Bridge Fund is implementing locally led adaptation solutions in the communities. So I will start with a quick brief on CBF since it's new and first of its kind in the private sector of Bangladesh. So what is Climate Bridge Fund? It is a trust fund established on November 2019 by BRAC with support from the government of Germany through KfW in Bangladesh. It's innovative direct climate finance mechanism. Currently funding projects covering 3 city corporation areas, including Borishal, Khulna, and Rajshahi, and 2 municipality areas, including Shatkhira and Shirajganj. We fund projects from diverse sectors, but priority areas include wash, livelihood, health, housing, drainage, food security, and energy efficiency. How do we operate? So we have 2 windows, climate change window and emergency response window. The climate change window is to support climate migrants or people at the risk of being displaced due to climate change impacts, whereas the emergency response window is to support the climate migrants whose lives and livelihoods are being affected by any natural or man-made disasters. We launch 1 call each year for supporting registered NGOs of Bangladesh. We have launched 2 calls under climate change window so far, and the emergency response window was opened based on COVID-19 pandemic, and we launched 1 call last year. Approach. Our approaches will give you an idea about how we focus on locally led adaptation. So first up, we have local ownership. The project concepts are prepared in close consultation with local authorities such as city corporation and municipal. The concepts must be in line with national policies and local plans. That's a mandatory requirement in our project selection. Then we have bottom-up approach. It's mandatory for our applicants to consult local communities of the proposed areas while designing the projects. We focus on the local context in designing the project measures. Then we have bridging short-term solutions to sustainable model. CBF has been set up to bridge the financial gap from the short-term project to sustainable services. And then lastly, we have generating knowledge and evidences. CBF also supports research, and we focus on dissemination of our learning at different levels, given that local, national, and global level. So for the purpose of this presentation, I will focus on the 4 projects currently being implemented under climate change window, as those have completed a challenging year due to COVID and established some evidences in the field. The 4 projects are led by BRAC Auto-Pro Graduation Program, jointly with BRAC Disaster Risk Management Program. And then we have another project by BRAC Health, Nutrition and Population Program. Then we have one project by Caritas Bangladesh, and then another one by WaterAid Bangladesh. And all these 4 projects are being implemented under Khulna and Rajshahi City Corporation. So we provide multi-type adaptation supports to minimize ecological, social, and physical risks at local level. We provide support from flood and waterlogging through constructing or renovating drainage and roads to minimize ecological risks. At the top left picture, you can see the pre-situation of the newly constructed road, which is shown at the top right. The road has been designed based on the water level in that area during rainy season, and there's a culvert to ensure that water can pass through and the road does not overflow even during heavy rainfall. At bottom, you can see the before and after renovation pictures of a drainage. To address the social risks, we provide healthcare services, eco-friendly housing support, and livelihood support. Under livelihood support, we provide cash support, training to handle those business or assets, and then we also monitor their progress to ensure that they can sustain their businesses. At the top left picture, you can see Mukta Appa, who is one of our cash support recipients, and as the only earning member in her family, she's being able to make profit and also save money. At the bottom left, there are some more cash support beneficiaries. Under our health project, there are awareness sessions on climate change impacts on health. The top right picture shows a courtier session inside our community. We also distribute different health commodities such as umbrella, soap, mask, and as you can see in the picture, that umbrella is being handed over to the beneficiary by our Shastha Shebika. The project also refers patients to the closest healthcare facilities which support low-income communities. To minimize physical risks, our projects provide water, sanitation, and hygiene support. As you can see in the picture, some pre and post-situation pictures of the community toilet and water point at the left. The right picture is of a submersible water pump, which is solar powered, and there's also rainwater harvesting system to reduce the pressure on groundwater. The total capacity of the 2 tanks are around 6,000 liters, and more than 200 families will be benefited from this support throughout the year. Another key support under physical risk minimization is solid waste management. Due to lack of any system in place, the environment of slums remain unhealthy, unhygienic, and causes waterlogging during rainy season. As we know that solid waste is one of the largest sources of human-related methane emissions, so our projects focus on a comprehensive solid waste management solution inside the slums. As you can see in the pictures, projects provide household-level waste basket to collect kitchen and household-level wastes. Then the project provide collection van and introduce a system to collect waste every day. At the rightmost picture, you can see one of our van pullers, Abdul Kalam Bhai, who collects waste from around 700 families every day. He earns around BDT 10,000 per month, which he says is enough to run his family and save for his daughter's future. So that is briefly our main.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Excellent from Anindita. You have raised several points. First thing is, this is the pioneering a direct climate finance mechanism in non-government private sector level, which is support adaptation solutions on the ground. So this is quite appreciable adaptation solution, which is local that is being held in Khulna currently, but also have other areas to extend. And you also mentioned about the elements of locally led adaptation, how these adaptation solutions are exactly presenting locally led adaptation programs. So you also mentioned these adaptation solutions currently, addressing types of key risks, climate risk, ecological perspective, social perspective, and also physical infrastructure. So at this point, I would request, Mr. Saif Iqbal, Urban Development Program, to deliver his presentation in 6 minutes. Saif Iqbal bhai, please go ahead.
Thank you, Rabbani Bhan, and welcome everyone. This is Saif from Urban Development Program of BRAC. I will try to highlight and talk about how we are using our Urban Development Program database, how we are developing it, and how we are using it for promoting local-led adaptations. In urban low-income settlements, we need to consider some very important things while designing or programming for anything. We must consider that in and out migration in urban slums are very high. We had a database, we are having a database from 2017 of 400 urban slums in our urban development program. And we have seen that these people, they are migrating very frequently. They are shifting their livelihoods. They are shifting their jobs very frequently. So if we want to promote locally led adaptation solutions to the communities, we must consider these issues. In 2021, we have updated the database, but this database is helping us in different way to for programming more effectively and more efficiently. We have collected information. We did a census in these communities. We have now information of more than 600,000 people living in the slums from 188,000 families in 400 communities. As we have seen that the urban slums, it is already in the stress, for different resources like the water supply, waste management, or job employments. And climate-induced migrants, they are also adding up this burden in these city service systems. We have analyzed the data that we have collected just last year, where these people are coming from and where they are going to and settling in. We have seen these, the larger cities are attracting more people. And for an example, if we consider the percentage of low-income people who are living in the slums, the Sylhet is the highest migrant accommodating in the Sylhet City Corporation. This is about the percentage, not the number of people. And we also have seen the where these people are coming from and how long they are staying in the slums. We have seen that the industrialized cities like Gazipur, Savar, or Narayanganj, these are attracting more migrants because they have the industrial sector to absorb these migrants. We have analyzed the people who are coming to the cities and the percentage of migrant people who are absorbed in different sectors like the labor, like the day laborers, garments workers, or these employment opportunities they are taking off. And for example, the day labor, most of the climate migrants are going to the work as day labor. A significant number of people are engaged in garment industries or the household help as a household help. These information are crucial as we have seen that if we want to promote any locally led adaptation in our communities. Based on these informations, we are going to the communities and sensitizing the people, sensitizing the city authorities and also community people. And we are facilitating them to plan for their development of their communities. There are two kinds of impact we have observed in our communities, like the direct impact of the climate change, like There are many communities who are residing in low-lying areas because those are the cheap places where they can live. So they are directly impacted by the more intensive rainfall or waterlogging or droughts. And we are also responding to the new people coming in the cities, to helping them to or the communities to identify the livelihood options and providing entrepreneurship development supports. All the interventions of urban development program from the very beginning are community-led, and these databases are helping the communities and also the city authorities and also us to design locally led adaptation options for the communities. As these are the principles, what we know, the locally led adaptation principles, these 8 principles. If we look at these principles, we can see that this is very important to use or to understand the communities, to understand the needs of the communities, to respond and promote locally led adaptation. As we have seen that the urban low-income population is very dynamic in character. If we consider their occupation, if we consider their number of people, they are very dynamic. And to respond to this and to prepare more effective planning and also the city budgeting or helping the communities to prioritize their needs and predicting the future, we need a very dynamic database to support them. If we don't do that, our plan may not work. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Saif Bhai. This is very, very, excellent points that you have mentioned, particularly, this is completely new to me on the statistics of climate migrants. And you also mentioned that why and how migration pattern to be considered for designing a locally led adaptations. And there are large number of, principles that we have, in locally led adaptation. You also mentioned about the origin destinations, the new destinations, and also, occupation-based planning of the adaptation solutions, particularly in water supply, solid waste management, and livelihood support. I appreciate all 3 of you for your, excellent presentations. And I think now is time for bringing the designated discussion at this point. May I now request Joel to turn off the presentation so that we can bring our honorable discussion in the scene. So I would first go with Mirza Shaukat Ali, Director Climate Change and International Convention at the Department of Environment. Shaukat Bhai, floor is yours, and you have 5 minutes to deliver your opinions and views, and also one question that I asked for you: how these experiences are aligned with the national and global commitment that you have seen, in last, wide, number of COPs in the in different parts of the world. Shaukat Bhai, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator, Dr. Mohammad Ghulam Rabbani, Head Climate Bridge Fund, Secretariat, BRAC. I would like to start my discussion with felicitating BRAC for organizing this good event, and also under the banner of ICAD for Gobeshona Conference. Dr. Mohammad Diabotali, Director Climate Change Program, BRAC and BRAC International, distinguished panelists, the keynote speakers, participants, good morning. I just would like to highlight few points. Specifically, as you are aware, we from the Department of Environment and the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, we are involved with the adaptation activities, at the same time, to some extent, mitigation activities. So, as you are aware, we prepared our NAPA in 2005, and then we updated it in 2009. And later on, we prepared PCC-SAP. Now we are preparing NAP. However, like Nepal, we have not prepared any LAPA, Local Adaptation Program of Action. But if you look into our NAPA or BCC SAP 2009 and Bangladesh Climate Change Trust Fund, all these initiatives actually is focusing towards the development or supporting the local communities. And ultimately, we are trying to make them climate resilient. And I congratulate BRAC for their initiative. They're also trying, and some other NGOs also, they are trying to make these local communities climate resilient. And collectively, hopefully, we shall be able to support them. But if we, having said that, I just want to focus the NAP formulation process. So you will get some of the answers there. You know, Bangladesh is at the moment preparing that NAP, and we have got already the zero draft NAP, and we are now reviewing the that zero draft to make it comprehensive, whether all the sectoral issues has been incorporated. So I just want to mention that now the government is preparing the National Adaptation Plan, following an extensive and rigorous consultation process with all the relevant stakeholders, not only from the national level, but also from regional, local level across the country. We have consulted climate experts, scientists, civil societies, youth groups, NGOs, and certainly vulnerable groups and communities. Actually, if you take into look into the process of formulating this NAP, we consulted the, divisional level officials, district level, and Upazila level, and we also went to the community through focus group discussion. And the process was very extensive. Now we are consulting with different stakeholders and specifically 4 sectoral agencies to make it comprehensive. So all these initiatives, and we have identified some of the adaptation actions, programs. So if you look into that, then you will find that most of these issues are focusing towards local level adaptation initiatives, because most of the people, vulnerable communities live in local areas. Having said that, I have 3 specific questions or suggestions from the panelists. I congratulate the 3 panelists for their nice presentation, and I am really delighted to know the initiatives that BRAC has already taken through their BRICS Fund and other initiatives in different areas. To Mr. Taposh, about the first presentation, I just want to mention that you mentioned that 14% of the Howard people know about climate change. They were aware. And in coastal areas, they're more aware, like 82% are aware of the, about the climate condition or climate vulnerability. So this means that from the government as well as from the NGOs, we haven't succeeded in reaching the, grassroots people, especially to hotspot areas, to vulnerable areas. And I want to share my experience while I was working in CDMP, Comprehensive Disaster Management Program, as climate change adaptation specialist. I found that in the most, remote areas, most of the NGOs try to shun those areas because it's due to difficulty in reaching those areas. So I would request through this webinar that BRAC and maybe from our side also, from government of Bangladesh, we shall try to reach the most vulnerable and hotspot areas. That is one point I wanted to mention. On second panelist, you mentioned about very nice presentation. You're providing different kinds of support. But to my understanding, you could have mentioned that whether you are providing livelihood support, the extent of support, to how many communities you are reaching out, so that we could understand the level of contribution that you are providing to those communities. You could have made this more elaborate in your presentation. And you also mentioned about the solid waste management. So I don't know whether solid waste management could be considered as a local-led adaptation. There's a more like an environmental issue. Maybe it could have some linkage, but it's more on the environmental issues, and certainly that will contribute to overall better living condition for the local communities. For the third presenter, I have one question. Have you differentiated between climate migrants and migrants who are coming to urban areas for employment opportunities or for like other activities? I mean, that is most important. And also from the BRAC or BRIC fund, I would request that we focus specifically to the climate migrants. That is one issue. And I would like to respond to the question that Rabbani Bhai has asked. We are actually trying to gather all the information from different initiatives. And certainly this is an initiative, and as a deputy project director, we will consider, and we have already considered, and certainly the information that I will gain today, I shall try to vent it to our consultants and try to incorporate that, ideas in our national action plan. And through our initiative, certainly that will be, if all the nations take this kind of initiative, that will contribute to the global communities. Lastly, I want to mention 2-3 project names. Under Adaptation Fund, we have accessed $9.21 million, and we are focusing this project to chore fashion areas, the most vulnerable Upazila in Bangladesh, and also in Rangpur area, that is also a riverine island. We are trying to provide them 900 houses and livelihood support and all kinds of support to make them resilient. So lastly, my point to the panelists and also to our distinguished colleagues from the BRAC, so I would request that we design a project which will be comprehensive, so that they get the livelihood support, they come out of their vulnerabilities from their settlements, they also get some sort of like education programs, all other health support, so that it's a comprehensive package, so we can make the communities, whatever a small community we address totally and try to make them resilient. Thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be a panelist here. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Shokut Bhai. This is excellent deliveries. I appreciate your time and your opinion on these 3 case studies. But on one presentation, I would be happy to respond to your questions. We are actually supposed to reach 100,000 people in first 4 years of period of Climate Bridge Fund initiative. And we have already reached more than 23,000. And one of the 4 projects is totally focusing on livelihood support. This is just for your information. Now I would request Mohammad Shamsud, Chief Executive Center for Participatory Research and Development, to deliver his opinions and remarks. But I would appreciate if you could also add, Doha Bhai, regarding the potential research areas to advance locally-led adaptation. 1 or 2 statements would be very helpful for us. But please feel free to make your open opinion on the 3 presentations. Thank you so much. Floor is yours, Doha Bhai.
Thank you very much, and very good afternoon to you, Rabbani Bhai, Liakut Bhai, the excellent panelists, Shokut Bhai, Mehdi Bhai, and also presenters, and also who are listening today in the webinar. This is indeed very good discussion, presentations also, because all we are talking about locally led adaptation. Sometimes I think it's a kind of jargon. Sometimes I think, yes, we need to promote locally led adaptation. But if I consider the very terminology of locally led adaptation, it says that the adaptation is undertaken by the local people and being implemented by the local people. So local people knows the climate change impact, and knowing that climate change impact, they are undertaking the measures. My question is that whether the national government is trying to understand the local climate change vulnerabilities or not. If so, then why we are talking about, why we are giving more emphasis on locally led adaptation activities. My first concern is that if we consider the, climate change plans and policies historically, since NAP, BCCSAP, and right now the current NAP, all the failed to capture local vulnerabilities and the misunderstood vulnerabilities. When they talk about vulnerabilities, they just a perception. I mean, vulnerabilities is profiled by their perception and the perception of some expert knowledge leaders. And I think it's a kind of knowledge hegemony and also a kind of power hegemony. So who are very, close to the power, who have the very, good condition in exercising power, they dominate the entire process from local to nationally. I'm not talking about only nationally, but also local people also. And there are also different kinds of socio-cultural, domination, political domination, exclusion, and exclusion again shaped by the political and social culture. So this is another debate, big debate. But when we talk about adaptation, essentially we need to understand the impacts, climate change impact. Do we really understand the climate change impact from the local level? Answer is no, because we're just capturing the primary impacts of climate change. Primary impacts essentially center around loss of assets. A kind of economic losses. But there is another dimension of climate change impact. This is human dimension. And we ignored that dimension very carefully and very knowingly, because if we want to explore the human dimension of climate change impact, then we need to, explore more things. We need to identify more things. We need to go to the local people. We need to do a robust exercise on vulnerability assessment. As I said, this is perceived vulnerability assessment because we just try to understand the primary impact. But if we want to understand the vulnerability, we need to go for analyzing exposure, sensitivity, and also adaptive capacity. Do we really know what are the adaptive capacity the local community has or not? Answer is no. So when we talk about locally adaptation, a process that essentially should understand not only the primary impacts of climate change, but also the secondary impacts of climate change, tertiary impacts of climate change, human dimension of climate change impact, and also should understand the adaptive capacity of that local communities, and then identify the adaptation actions and requirement. It is very good to hear from Shaukat Bhai that the government of Bangladesh is developing NAP, and you know that I was present the last discussion on NAP, expert discussion on NAP that held, 2 or 3 days back. I found everybody is unhappy on that NAP because this is entirely focusing risk, not vulnerability. Again, I'm saying that vulnerability is not risk. Vulnerability is something more. Vulnerability is to close to the humans. It's not just building infrastructure. It's not just building embankment, sluice gate. It's also ensuring human rights of the climate change affected population. It's also ensuring health rights. It's also ensuring their empowerment. Because if we consider climate change impact in the coastal areas and also in the barren areas where agriculture is collapsing, so when women are losing their agricultural opportunities, they feel a kind of disempowerment because they lost agricultural potentialities. And empowerment of women, rural women, is based on agricultural activities. So we need to understand the impact chain of climate change impact. So not only the primary impact. So again, I'm saying that when you talk about local adaptation, this is a very good initiative, and we need to do robust exercise on understanding climate change impact and vulnerabilities. Then we could say that, yes, we are doing something. And I would like to say something on the presentation, and though this is very tiny effort, but still there is an initiative, there is an, try to understand the local concern, local vulnerabilities. And when we talk about displacement and migration, I found that some projects are addressing displacement and migration. This is a very good initiative, but this is left from the national structure, national plans. When we talk about local adaptation, this is also related to governance. Without influencing local governance and also central governance, we cannot ensure any adaptation measures, whether it is in local level or whether it is in national level. We did a consultation in coastal areas. They said that unless we fail to address corruption, unless we fail to address governance in public service delivery, corruption in infrastructure development, particularly embankment development, road development, culvert development, construction, this will create double risk. One risk the risk community will further expose to the risks due to substandard development work. Another risk is Bangladesh will fail to access global climate fund due to corruption and misuse of money. So I think both the local initiative and national initiative should consider those concerns, and we'll try to develop a robust adaptation plan and ensure its good implementation with proper institutional support and governance mechanism. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Norbhai. Thank you. Excellent. You have brought, some of the different dimensions in the discussion. I absolutely recognize your point regarding the robust vulnerability assessment, and based on that, designing the locally led adaptation programs or the actions. And of course, I absolutely agree with you. Exposure sensitivity and adaptive capacity is a framework which needs to be really assessed and developed. And of course, there are governance crises, but we need to really address those issues for effectiveness of our adaptation effort on the ground. I think this is my time to request S.M. Mehdi Hassan, Senior Urban Resilience Specialist, KfW Development Bank, and he has another hat, as I mentioned earlier, General Secretary, Bangladesh Institute of Planners. Mehdi Bhai, you have 5 minutes to deliver your opinion and whatever you want to say.
Thank you, Rabbani Bhai, as well as respected Chair Liakut Bhai, as well as distinguished panelists and very interesting presentations. So I would like to start with locally led adaptation. The climate change is a global thing. Like our colleagues, they are going to COP, sign the protocols like Paris Protocol, and then like in national level, we have national adaptation plan, and previously we have different level plans. But today we are talking about locally led adaptation. Although Shaukat Bhai mentioned that the national level plans are consulted locally, but in local level, there are, I was really hearing the vulnerabilities as well as the contribution from previous panelists. Like the vulnerabilities in different spots is different. In the local level, it is different. For example, for Gabura, we need local level plan for Gabura, local adaptation plan for Gabura. And then we need the people from Gabura to lead the implementation. Sitting in Dhaka, we can prepare national adaptation plan. Definitely it is needed for the country, but we need local level plan to implement locally led adaptation. So until or unless we are doing this, we are too far away. So that is my one point. And another point to Major Shaukat Bhai, like as I have two hats today, like I would like to underscore one point that Bangladesh Institute of Planners, we have 2,500 urban planners in the country. And in the NAP process, BIP is not invited or consulted. So if you kindly note that, we are really eager to contribute because the national level plan is under preparation and we are not consulted. So we would like to contribute in the process. So this is the second thing. Now I'm coming back to the topic of today. Like we need locally led plan as well as locally led implementation. So how this can be done? So as my first point is like, example of Gabura, like we need a plan for Gabura. So the plan for Gabura will be definitely different than plan for Rajshahi region or some other region. So there are localities, local challenges. We need localized and plan. And for that, this database, like one of the presentation was highlighting the database is very important. And then how this can be implemented, the implementation is the responsibility of the local government, either Union Parishad, Upazila Parishad or municipalities. But I see here two big challenge. One challenge is human resource capacity or technical capacity, another is financial capacity. So we cannot reduce this capacity gap immediately. So I see that the government of Bangladesh, we are doing economically very good. So a government of Bangladesh shall really finance NGOs. So the NGOs can work together with local government institutions, Union Parishad, Upazila Parishad and municipalities, and implement together. Here we see the bridge. The bridging role that between community and local government institutions can be played by civil society organizations. And finance shall be done primarily by government and also by different development partners. Definitely, I'm also representing one development partner, like the development partners are contributing, but the primary responsibility is towards government, because we hear that from different ministers, even the brokers, they said that we have money, we don't have problem with money. So that means government has the money. So government should provide the money to government channel as well as to civil society channel, because with government mechanism like solving the local level challenges, definitely government is functioning, working well, but I think the grassroots level challenges, this has to be partnered with civil society. And in Bangladesh, the civil society landscape is quite vibrant. And if government is financing the civil society organizations work together, and then this can be improved, as well as in the process, the people in the grassroots level, they should be in the lead. So that is my conclusion. That first point is like we need, in one plan, national adaptation plan for the whole country cannot solve the whole problem. We need local level plan. And in the planning process, the local people shall be in the lead, as well as the local government institutions shall be the owner of the plan. And all the partners, including civil society organizations, should be there. And in the implementation process, government should take the lead, as well as the local government institutions, community, and the bridging partnership with civil society. I see that there is a lack promoting civil society in recent years. Like, even in advanced economies, like civil societies, NGOs are financed by respective governments. So as we are aiming to develop Bangladesh in developing country and then in advanced country by 2041. So in our national, annual development budget or in the process, we shall also allocate some money for NGOs so that they can really be the extended hand of the government and implement these programs. So I would like to conclude here and from Bangladesh Institute of Planners, I would like to offer that, we can always work together and support either in national adaptation plan process or into the locally led process. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mehdi bhai. Excellent point. You have mentioned three main points. If I pick from that, first one is the context-specific vulnerability and designing adaptation solutions. Absolutely, there is no substitute to that, because we have different ecosystem and the vulnerabilities are completely different. So our vulnerability will be different in the different context, different ecosystem. So that is one point, and absolutely right. Local level plan would really help us. We appreciate that this is part of the UNFCCC process, that every country has to develop a national adaptation plan, but at the same time, like Nepal, local adaptation plan could be another entry point. And of course, I would appreciate if Shaukat bhai consider your request, to engage BIP, because we have 500 planners, urban planners in this forum. So I'm sure that
2,500.
2,500. I'm sorry, 2,500. This is huge. And urban planning is again extremely important. In the adaptation effort in not only in Bangladesh, in the entire country. So thank you so much to all the designated discussant, the panel of experts and the presenters. Now I would request our audience attendees to raise your question maybe in the chat box, or you can ask your question directly to any presenters or even the discussant if you have any question on their deliveries. Please go ahead with your question. I can see one question from Manik Shah, Plan Bangladesh. Let me just go through this question. Separating water at household level is not the entire picture of the spectrum if it ends up in the landfill without differential treatment.
It's not water, it's waste.
It's waste, absolutely, it's waste. Would be good to have thoughts from presenter on how it is supporting the big picture of climate change. Second question I see, we often don't emphasize our consumerism behavior that contributing to the climate change. How the context of locally led adaptation can be applied in the contextual consumerism of Bangladesh, being a middle income country. Who wants to respond?
Where is the question, in fact?
I think it's a kind of remarks. We are accepting those remarks, and maybe when we will develop our proceedings, we will address that.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Chair. I think Chair will will respond on some of the question. Is there any other question that that you can see? Please raise your hand if you want to ask, direct question. If there is no other question, I would request presenter to have at least 1 minute to respond if you want, because there are some questions raised by our designated discussants. Do you want to respond, Tapusda, Anindita, and Said Bhai, before we go to our chair for his delivery?
Yes, thank you, Rabbani Bhai. This is Saif again, and I have talked about the database, and the question was whether we are considering all the migrants or the climate migrants only. In our data set as an urban development program, we are collecting data of every individual living in these slums. This is kind of census. So we are trying to identify for what reason they have settled in the slums. And we have found that there is significant number of people who are due to any kind of natural disasters or long-term consequences of the climate change, like the salinity intrusion or crop loss. These are the factors we have used to identify the climate migrants. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Tapusda, Anindita, do you want to respond? Or you want to add anything?
Yes, I would like to, Bhai, it's Anindita. I would like to just add with you that we are currently covering 177 slums through our 4 projects in Khulna and Rajshahi City Corporation. And about the question that Manik Shahada asked regarding the solid waste management, we acknowledge the problem, Manik Shahada, that separating the waste at the household level is not the comprehensive solution. Yes, it is not, but they didn't have any system in place when we entered the slum. So we established that system, and we are in negotiation with City Corporation and SNV Khulna, who are currently working with fecal sludge management and the treatment plan. They have a separate treatment plan there. So we are in conversation with them that how we can, work in coordination with them so that we can offer a comprehensive solution at that level as well. That's all, Bhai. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Of course, if we can really, manage the solid waste properly, we can reduce the emission. At the same time, we have an adaptation benefit from this, because if you do not have proper system of solid waste management, the people will throw this solid waste, here and there. And when the rainy season comes, monsoon comes, this gets waterlogged in the low-lying areas of the, different slums in different cities. So, the water to drain out, water during the rainy season becomes difficult because of the, solid waste they dumped in the open places, low-lying areas. So there are several problems in relation to solid waste. So we are actually supporting, both UDP and also Climate Bridge Fund are supporting solid waste management so that they have some proper management system in place, to reduce these 2 types of problems. If you do not have any other questions or any other statements, comments, opinions, I will straight go to our Honorable Chair, Dr. Liaquat Ali, who is the, as I said, who is the Director of Climate Change Program and also Director of, Urban Development Program, and also member of the Climate Bridge Fund. So with these 3 hats, I would request him to deliver his, closing remarks, chair remarks, or, vote of thanks and close this session. Thank you so much, Liaquat Bhai, for your time. Liaquat Bhai, for this is your time.
Thank you very much for organizing such a beautiful event. Within a very short time, we have to cover a lot. I understand the difficulties for the presenter, especially the keynote presenter, to describe climate change program within 5 minutes is a very difficult task. Also, describe climate bridge fund in a 5 minutes time is very difficult time. And urban development program, 6 years experience in 20 cities, 5 minutes is really difficult job, but they did excellent job. Thank you for them. And also, we have such a beautiful and honored discussion today, because some of the designated discussion was excellent. Like as usual, they are the key resource person in the arena of climate change. So what they normally do, they did it today also. So, I like to add few points here, because, rainwater harvesting is nothing new in Bangladesh, because we did it for a long time. But what we did here is that we try to solve the problem of quality in an effective, low cost and innovative way, and also try to minimize the time so that they can store it for a longer period of time, and to remove the barrier for a better catchment in a low cost, innovative way. And agriculture, we try to find out in a context specific model, so that, BRAC is a champion for making a model and then goes for big escalation. As first lesson added by always say, small is beautiful, but large is essential. So we believe that. And regarding the CBF, it's a new innovative climate finance mechanism. It was not only appreciated within the country, but also abroad. It was appreciated, and people are coming to us, reaching us to know what is about CBF. It talks and deals about transparency, which is already you have heard from the Hawaii, and it deals with the governance, because it's a governance issue is a factor here, because we know the experience of Climate Change Trust Fund. I don't like to discuss that in details. And wish for the future, because these are very small project calls, but from that, whether we can find a ways for the future so that we can go for bigger scale. I like to be very cautious here, because when we are talking about water logging, it means something's bigger. But when you talk about drainage congestion, it can be easily dealt. So be careful your connotation or what terminology you are using, because water logging is a very big issue. Focus in our CBF, I think, is the local level implementation, because we are giving it to the local and international NGO. So how they are implementing it is the main focus, should be the main focus in the coming days. Urban development, as Shaukat Bhai was mentioning, the livelihood component. We have worked for 6 years for the empowerment of the people, and we have fantastic database as well as livelihood programs. So I know Saib Bhai cannot go through detail because of the time constraint. And also, BRAC, we have 17 programs. Especially, we have a program designated for our areas. It's called IDP, Integrated Development Program. So they are also implementing some of the activities which is related to climate change. That's why we are not still focusing our especially. So, but other hotspot area we are covering, but we have a plan from climate change program to go into that area and working with IDP program jointly. I like to mention Dohabai's point. He correctly mentioned some of the critical issues that are coming up during preparations. We also feel something like that. I don't have enough chance to go and talk, and I was not even invited. They invited me for 3 or 4 occasions to give some adaptation local level experience of BRAC and others in the country for their training component. That's it. So I will request Shaukat Bhai to look into that matter, because he is representing the government part. That's why, as I mentioned at the beginning, BRAC is always working with the community. Community is first. So whatever program we are talking about within BRAC, community is the first. So we are working for that. That's why in climate change program, we developed a framework. It's called Climate Building Resilience Framework for the BRAC. So it is readily available. So the exposure, sensitivity, the capacity is already mentioned there very carefully. And also, you know, the implementation, we have models, as I said. There are some good local level adaptation models, which is developed by community, implemented by community jointly with city authority or Paurasabhas or municipalities. So they are not only implementation, planning, preparation, and also implementation and joint contribution. Some of the resources come from the community, some of the resources come from the city authority or from the municipality, and some of coming from the BRAC donors contribution. So in that, we have models. So we are trying to go into the field. So now I like to thank our three valuable panelists for their nice discussion and pointing out rightly the important points that we have to address today. And also I'd like to thank the organizer to organize such a wonderful event within a very short time and within a short span of 1 hour. Thanks to them. I'd like to thank all the participants who are joining from the country as well as from the abroad. So maybe in the near future, we will have the scope to discuss and contact once again. So there will be a proceedings. We would like to answer the questions which are raised in the chat box as well as in the question and answer box. So thank you, everybody. Thank you very much for a wonderful event. Thank you.